Welcome to AvTalk.
Today I have cockpit designer and human factors specialist Anthony. What were the human factors design requirements of your team's new flight deck?
There were various human factor design requirements that we took into consideration prior to building a new flight deck for single pilot operations. Pilot incapacitation was a major concern, and to eliminate the aircraft becoming completely uncontrolled, the aircraft will be fully autonomous. Now, due to the nature of having a fully automated aircraft and the pilot essentially being a supervisor, situational awareness was thought of thoroughly throughout designing the cockpit, as we obviously want to maximise the pilot's situational awareness. Along with being a supervisor, humans in general are not the best at passively monitoring, so we took this into consideration too by making the pilot more involved where need be. The concept of decision making for the pilot was another factor that we considered carefully when constructing our cockpit. We wanted to design the cockpit in a way where working with the pilot is made seamlessly and very efficient. You see, there is simply no point designing a cockpit that makes decision making for a pilot complex, as it only takes more effort to process what has been received and delays response time. In addition, there is no point providing a pilot with such a high workload, as this also too hinders the pilot's response time.
Fascinating. Sounds like a lot was considered. So how do you plan to implement these requirements onto your design?
Excellent question. Firstly, what I'd like to say, since the aircraft is operated by one pilot only, we need a way to detect if the pilot becomes incapacitated. A mandatory wristband that monitors the heart rate will need to be worn by the flight crew throughout the flight. If the system detects no pulse, an alert will be sent to the pilot via a display with a warning just in case the wristband is faulty. If no response is detected within 1 minute, ground stations will be alerted. I'd like to refer to a rough sketch my team has designed. Provided is a bird's eye view and a view from above the seat. We plan the cockpit to consist of a huge 180-degree horizontal touchscreen display that curves around the pilot. Initially, the important information will be provided on the central display, which is within 60 degrees of the pilot's view, and the remainder on the peripheral display within the pilot's peripheral vision. To increase situational awareness for the pilot, the central display will be constantly updated with the most important information. For example, say if there is an engine failure, all the important information will be on the central display, such as checklists and actions performed by the aircraft. Although this will be done autonomously, it is still important that the pilot is aware what the aircraft is doing. In addition to situational awareness, if an important item is on the left peripheral display but is not required on the central display, the left side of the back seat will vibrate. So now we're utilising touch as a means of communication to the pilot. As stated before, humans in general are not the best at passively monitoring. This may influence situational awareness. To address this, the pilot will be prompted permission for the aircraft to perform phases of flight. For example, a prompt requesting permission for a taxi or takeoff. So, although the aircraft is completely autonomous, we still need a way to engage the pilot so they are kept stimulated. All the other controls you see are basically the primary flight controls for redundancy. We have to the right an area that has the speed brake or spoiler, throttle and flaps. To the left, we have a multi-function redundancy panel, or MRP, which includes communications, landing gear, lever, and joystick. We figured that there is no point a yoke being in front of the pilot if the yoke is only to be used for redundancy. Of course, lastly is the rudder pedal. The landing gear has been positioned in its way so that if the pilot needs to use the joystick, it won't be in the way or accidentally touched. Selecting the gear forward to the displays is gear up and towards the seat is down. For the pilot to exit the seat will be pushed back by the pilot before turning 90 degrees.
Interesting, Anthony. Now, from what you've stated, how can you use human factor theories to inform your design solution?
Well, my team utilised many human factor theory concepts to inform our design solution. The Yerkes-Dodson curve was utilised throughout designing our cockpit, which is basically a graph of attentional availability against workload. To have optimum attentional availability, the pilot needs to have some sort of stimulation and experience moderate workload. Now, as you can imagine, Francesca, having an aircraft fully autonomous makes it quite difficult for there to be some sort of workload. So, as mentioned before in respects to the aircraft asking permission for pilots to perform a phase of flight, we also use the Gestalt effect to set up the instruments in a linear manner rather than scattered. We believe that placing one big 180-degree display will inevitably help with the flow of how the pilot will monitor instruments and other items such as checklists. In addition, we utilise 3 of the 5 elements of sense, which is sight, touch and hearing. As mentioned before, the back seat will vibrate left or right depending to which side of the peripheral display wants the pilot's attention. This is something new that is not seen in many other aircraft and which increases situational awareness.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you, everyone. Please tune in tomorrow for tomorrow's AvTalk.